All right, we're resuming what we began yesterday. What did we begin yesterday? We're talking about the fact that the second Rebbe of Chabad was born and passed away on the same date. He was born, he passed away on the same date. And so did Moses. Moses also was born and passed away on the same date. Okay, the second Rebbe of Chabad, he was born in the month of Kislev. Kislev. More exactly, the 9th day of Kislev. And Moses was born and passed away on also the same date, which was the 7th day of Adar. Adar, different dates, but nevertheless the same day. Okay. So the Rebbe said, so what? Everybody has to die sometime, and everybody has to be born sometime. So he was born on the same day. What's the point? So the Rebbe says the point is that, first of all, your birthday is very important. That's the day you came into the world, is very important. And secondly, time is very important. Time is very important. It's part of the creation. And the creation to God is very important. Every detail of it. So by making proper use of time, I mean, we're only in the world for a certain amount of time. So God gives a certain amount of time in the world. That time is opportunity. Every moment is a new opportunity to do what God wants. And when you do what God wants, so that makes that time, that opportunity, brings it into, how do you say, fruition, makes it eternal. So every moment becomes an eternal moment. So it could be that a person lives for 120 years or whatever it is, how long, Cain lived or whatever, 900 years, however long he lived. I have to look and see, I forgot how long he lived. Let's say, and he doesn't do any good deeds. So it's just like, like a wind that just blew, nothing really happened. But if a person does one good deed, even if he lived for, a year, 2 years, whatever, a good person did one good deed. That one good deed is eternal. It's worth more than 1,000 years of, having a good time. Whatever. So using time is important. So time is a very important thing. Just give me one moment. Time is a very important thing. Time is a very essential thing. Just 1 second. I just want to check something which I forget to check. I forget to check 1 second. Every day, and I want to do it, and I forget to do it. Okay. 1 second. One moment. Why isn't this not here? All of a sudden, I can't find it. Oh, here we go. 13. Good. Oh. Okay, the second Rebbe of Chabad, that's right. He lived, how long did he live? He lived 55 years. That's what it says here, 55 years. 55 years, from 1773 until, excuse me, from 1773 until 1827. That's 55 years, right? Okay, 55 years, that's right. Good. I just wanted to get that clip. Okay. Okay, now, Moses was a special person. The second Rebbe of Chabad, he was certainly not as famous as Moses. Moses is written in every Torah. But the fact is that he was the exact same thing as Moses. How so? What exactly did Moses do? What made Moses so special? What did he do? He took the Jews out of Egypt. That was the special thing of Moses. Moses took the Jews out of Egypt. He was a great leader. He took all the Jews out of Egypt. That was his job. I mean, he got the Torah. He also received the Torah. But he didn't really bring the Jews into the land of Israel. He didn't succeed 100%. And also he said, I know the Jews that were going to sin, and they did sin. So the Torah really wasn't, they didn't really appreciate the Torah so much. So the same thing is with the second Rebbe of Chabad. His job was to make people appreciate really the Torah. Okay, it wasn't worldwide like Moses was. Wasn't worldwide. But on the other hand, he had a key. He had a key to understanding, to feeling the Torah that Moses didn't have. And that's the ideas of Chassidut. So he was one of the masters of Chassidut, especially Chassidut Chabad. And so Chassidut Chabad is trying to get the world ready for Moshiach. And just like Yaakov, we just said Yaakov, even if one person, like I gave this example I just made up, somebody invents a little box that if you press a little button, it defies the laws of gravity. Right? So if one person has this, all of a sudden that changes all the laws of gravity. The same thing, if one person gets the ideas properly, of Chassidut, what it wants, that changes all of the laws of reality. It changes all the laws. And that's what the second Rebbe of Chabad did. That's all the Rebbes of Chabad did. It changes the laws of what reality. Suddenly the world becomes more meaningful. It becomes godly. The world suddenly enters a new dimension of meaning and value. So that's what it says, that the second Rebbe of Chabad, he was the Moses of his generation. Habir said the explanation will be understood. The connection of this week's Torah portion, Vayetze and Vayishlach. Vayetze, let's see, pointer. Vayetze is what we read this Shabbat, coming Shabbat, and Vayishlach we read on Mincha. Right at the end of Shabbat, the last prayer of Shabbat is called the Mincha prayer of Shabbat. And we read the Torah. We read just one small portion. We read 1/7 of the Torah portion we read. But nevertheless, it starts the next week, and that's Vayishlach. Next week is Vayishlach. It's next week's Torah portion is that Yaakov. This week's Torah portion talks about Vayetze, how Yaakov fights with he goes down to Lavan, and he gets married to Rachel and Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah, and he gives birth to the 12 tribes, more exactly 11 of the 12 tribes, because Benjamin gets born later. Is Vayetze. So he makes the Jewish people, Bnei Yisrael. Vayishlach is talking about how Yaakov, he meets up with Esav. He's been estranged from Esav already for 34 years, 35 years. And Esav wants to kill him. He's been looking around for him to kill him all the time, and he hasn't found him. And now he meets up with him. That's next week, Vayishlach. That Jacob sent angels in front of him. So Vayetze is talking about the establishment of the Jewish people, the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Of Yisrael is Jacob, right? And Vayishlach is how he met up with Esav. Okay, so let's look at these two Torah portions, and that'll explain something to us about the importance of the second Rebbe of Chabad, and the fact, and also the importance of the fact that he was born and passed away on the same day. In these two Torah portions, Vayetze, Vayishlach, we see something very amazing. Ikar Sipur, the main story about Jacob, is in Parshat Toldot last week. Shebo Medaber, that it talks about how Yaakov, Hayab Beit Aviv, he was in the house of his father in the land of Israel, in Beersheba. In Parshas Vayetze, it talks about how Yaakov, he left Israel. He went out from Beersheba and he went to this terrible place which was called Haran. Ad Yetzias Yaakov Beersheba, it talks about how Yaakov left Israel and he went to the place of Haran. And Haran is also the word like blazing anger. Haran, that was the name of the place, but it was a Haran af Shel Makom, the blazing anger of God. It's like a city, calling a city in Israel or whatever it is, hell, right? I'm going to hell. Where? What do you? What thing does that is? That's the name of the city. The city is called hell. It's called. That's what Haran was. Haran was like hell, the worst place in the world. Worst place. Everybody's cheaters. Everybody's liars over there. Haran av shel makom. He went to Lavan Arami, to Lavan, the how do you say the con man. Lavan Arami. He was in the family of Jacob. In calling Yanima Bilti Ritzuyim Akashurim Bazeh, with all of the things that are attached to this, you read a Hachi Gadol, the biggest descent in possible, and Jacob wasn't really prepared for it. I mean, he had been brought up by his father, Yitzchak, and he was in the land of Israel all the time. Beersheba was a wonderful place, and all of a sudden he has to go to this the worst place in the world, and it says that Yaakov was afraid. It says, it says, Niskak Lavdacha, he had to have God's special promise. I will take care of you. Don't worry about it. And together with this, B'charon, when he was in this Charon, the worst place in the world, Nisa Yaakov, he came at Beito. That's where Jacob established the Jewish people. Reuben Kakulam Shalashvatim, 11 of the tribes. Like I say, Benjamin was born later, but in Charon was born all of the 11 tribes. Yesod Shalom Yisrael, the whole foundation of the Jewish people. Where was it founded? In a totally hostile environment. Nowadays they have, people that I don't know how that is now. I think now it's even worse than ever. I think now it's just, impossible. Now it's just impossible. But, a person robs, he steals, he lies, he cheats, and he comes to court. All of his victims, the families of his victims are sitting there, and his lawyer says, Your Honor, he's a product of his environment. He had a hard upbringing. And the judge says, yes, I understand. We'll let him go. Right? And the crowd is going crazy. What? How can you let this guy go on the streets? How can you? You have to understand his upbringing, his past, his values were okay. Okay, is that a valid thing to say, or is it not a valid thing to say? I mean, maybe to a certain degree, maybe it is. I mean, that's a reason to keep him in jail and to rehabilitate him, not to let him out on the streets to do the same thing. Okay, but anyway, Judaism proved it's not so. God said, you want to have a Jewish people, you want to have a holy nation, bring them up in the worst possible environment. You're talking about kids get bullied. This is the ultimate bullying. Everybody hated Jacob. Everybody hated his children. The whole world was against them. That's where you have to bring up the children. Well, that's totally not normal. That's the Torah. The Jewish people were brought up. It started in Israel, but it was brought up in, right, the Jewish people, Bnei Yisrael, the sons of Yaakov. They were all born, except one, they were all born in the worst place in the world. Afilu la'achre Yaakov, even after, right, the worst environment possible. Afilu la'achre Yaakov, even after Jacob finished his service by Lavan in Haran, and he decided he was going to go back to his father's house, go back, right, with his 11 children. I mean, 12, he had also Dinah. Kafisha Bikesh, 11 sons. Kafisha Bikesh, like he said, Shavti B'Shalom B'Savi, I want to go back home in peace to the house of my father. Afterwards, in Nitzavo, he said, God said, Shuv el eretz avicha ve'el avotecha v'moladetecha, go back to the house of your fathers and the place you were born. Oh, right. Finally, Yaakov said, I can go back home. Haino b'makom, instead of Jacob going back to this place of comfort and security, take of miyad, instead of immediately going to the land of Israel, Matchil, Rak, then it begins next week's portion where he has to go and meet up with Esav. That's next week's. Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim lefanav el Esav achiv. He has to send angels before him, messengers in front of him, to Esav, prepare for the meeting. And stay Adoma. In Kolapratim, and all the details which are in next week's Torah portion, Vayishlach. And only after next week's Torah reading, the Torah comes and says that's Parshas Vayeshev. Only then, that's the next Torah portion, which is called Vayeshev. Then only then did Yaakov go back and he settled in the house of his fathers. Okay, so what's the Rebbe pointing out over here? The Torah portion this week and the Torah portion next week is talking about Yaakov leaving Israel and going to the worst place in the world, and that's where he established the Jewish people. He gave birth to all of his sons, and then after he did that, instead of immediately going back home, we read about it next week's Torah portion, that he goes and he meets up with Esav, his arch enemy that wants to kill him. And only after that, the third week, then we get Parshas Vayeshev. At first glance, this main story about Jacob, Betor Echad Me'avot, is one of the fathers of Judaism. And the fathers of Judaism, they are a vehicle for godliness. Adarab, exactly what Bechor Shababos says, that all the three, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they were all vehicles for God. They were like holy temples on human holy temples. And Jacob, he was the choice of them. It says from Abraham came out Yishmael, and from Yitzchak came out Esav, not too good, enemies of the Jewish people. From Jacob, though, came out all of his sons were pure. If so, Jacob, Yaakov, he gave birth to, he should have been in Eretz Israel his whole life. That's the place for Jews in the land of Israel. Rak B'Kitzur, only a little bit, maybe go out a couple days to Lavan, whatever, and to Esav of Russia. You want to be in Israel and make a few journeys to Lavan. Lefisha Zeb Benogea, the Sipur B'Torah, Orot Avorot Avram Yitzchak, like it was what Abraham and Yitzchak, most of their lives, they were in Israel. Yitzchak always was in Israel. Yitzchak never left. But Avram, briefly, he made journeys outside. She'ikar Sipur, that the main thing of Abraham and Yitzchak was in the land of Israel. But Yaakov, that he's the choice of the fathers. He's the one that established all the Jewish people. The majority of his work was done outside of Israel. The promised land. How can we explain this? What does it mean to us? What happened to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? That is a sign for us, moving so it's understood. Shasipur, that story that's told in the Torah about what happened to Yaakov Avinu in Lavan, with Lavan, and afterwards, next week's Torah portion, what happened with Esav. This must be a simon, this must be some sort of a sign for us, the Horah, and a teaching for us to the Jewish people in their service. What is it? Be'emsot Sipur, through the story of the Torah about Jacob, the Yetze Yaakov, Vayishlach, this week's Torah portion, and next week's Torah portion, that Yaakov went out of Israel, and afterwards, then that's this week, and next week that he met up with Esav. Shezui Apam Rishon, this is the first time in the Torah that's speaking about Barichot in such great length and such great detail. Al Avodah, of the service of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the world. So Malamed the Torah teaches us, the Torah in Lashon's Hora'ah, a teaching for all the generations, Shetachlit Avodah, that the main service of the Jewish people, excuse me, he is the Poel Ba'olam, to fix up the world. The place of the Jewish people is in Israel. Moshiach is going to bring all the Jews to Israel. That's the goal of Israel. Until all the Jews are in Israel, the land of Israel is not really truly functioning. There's no Jubilee year, the Yovel, and other laws. There's no Ger Toshav and things like that. There are a lot of laws which can only be implemented of the Torah when all the Jews are in Israel. They're supposed to be in Israel. But the job of the Jewish people is to have an effect, to bring blessing on all of the world. Until that time, when Moshiach brings all the Jews back to the land of Israel, we've got a lot of work to do in the world. And just by way, parenthetical statement, that only Moshiach will bring the Jews back to Israel. All the Jews. Jews can come to Israel whenever they want to. It's a nice thing, come to Israel. Want to come to Israel. But all of the Jews are only going to come to Israel only when Mashiach comes. Doesn't make any, don't listen to what anybody else says. It's not true. Don't listen to any books, any support, what it is. It's not true. The only way all the Jews, that's what Maimonides says, no one disagrees with him. No one disagrees with him. And the people that do disagree with him, they ignore him. They just don't bring his opinion in, which it's like not bringing, note music into music theory, hiding from the fact that there is, a piano and violins, instruments, like hiding instruments from music. Just say music is just singing. The Maimonides is like the ultimate opinion in Judaism. Not always does everybody agree with what he says. Maimonides knows that. He wrote it, his opinion, in order that all the opinions of the Torah should be clear. Now you can start arguing. What are the proofs, whether this. But the one thing that no one disagrees with, at least none of the Maimonides stature, is that only Mashiach, that's one of the jobs of Mashiach, only Mashiach will bring all the Jews back to Israel. But until then, the job of the Jews is to make the world a better place. Milameret Otanu, this teaches us also how we do it, how to do it. I think I've told you this a lot of times, but I'll tell it to you again. A person from South Africa wrote a letter to the Rebbe requesting a blessing to come to the land of Israel. Simple. A Jew in South Africa wants to come to Israel. Wonderful thing. So the Rebbe said there's 4 criteria, and not so fast. This is the first criteria is you have to prepare yourself. Israel is a holy place. You have to prepare yourself spiritually, and character, improve your character so that it's fitting to a holy land. It's a holy land. Holy land means that you do, at least you try to do what God wants, say what God wants, think what God wants. You're in that direction. Pure. Number 1. Number 2 is that you are not dependent on the land, on the government of Israel for your livelihood. You come there with enough money that you can be self-sufficient. Number 3, that you can contribute to, you have something to contribute to Israel. You have to be something to contribute. Get a job, get a this, it's something, you're there to contribute, not just to get old or to die. They'll fly your body there, whatever it is, but your purpose, you have to contribute. And number 4, you have to be sure that you're not weakening the place that you are leaving. You're not weakening. The Rebbe brought an example that the representatives from Israel went to Morocco and they convinced the rabbis there in Morocco to come to Israel and that the people of Morocco will come after them. And the Rebbe said, I tried my best to tell them not to do it. It's going to be a tragedy. And they didn't listen to me. And sure enough, it was a tragedy. The rabbis all left. The Jewish people in Morocco didn't have any rabbis, so they went to France and they married non-Jews and everything. You have to be sure you're not weakening the place you're coming from, because the job of the Jews is not to be insular. It's not just that we have to be strong and then the non-Jews will have to show them. We have to affect the whole world. We have to teach the world. That's the job of the Jewish people. Our job is, our identity is not a political one. It's not a national one. It is a godly one. And God creates the whole world, and God cares about everyone in the world. That's the job of the Jewish people. That's what says, to bless all of the nations in the world. We have to be outside. And Jacob was the example. the most of his service of God was outside of Israel. That's where he raised the Jew, his family, and that's where he met up with Esav, etc., and set the stage for the future redemption. Like it says, Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheba, that Jacob left Beersheba and he went to Haran. This hints in general of the descent of the soul into the body. God started, the Jewish people started out in Egypt, but the Jewish people started off in a much worse way, a much, how do you say, more seemingly, how do you say, what can we say? Unfair. Anyway, the soul before it comes into the body is very peaceful. It's really, it's doing okay, and it has no doubts that God exists. And God takes the soul and puts it into the body, and it's a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous descent into the body. A tremendous descent. A lot of times I think, there's these sports people, these people that, they could, boxers or something, they could stand in the ring and box for 12 hours. They didn't get tired. And then they get older. They get 70, and they can't do the same things they did before. But before, what they were doing, they were totally devoted to it day and night. And now they can't do any of it, right? Just let's say, imagine a person who's the boxing champion of the world, and he's the chess champion of the world, and he's the best musician in the world. He can play violin and piano like nobody else. And suddenly that person becomes paralyzed. He becomes paralyzed. And he can't use his mind, and he can't speak, and he can't talk, and he can't box, and he can't do anything, and he can't, play the piano, he can't play anything. Just a terrible thing. Well, that's what happens to the soul. The soul, before it comes into the body, it is just basking in the oneness of God. And it comes into the body, and it loses all of its talents and all of its sensitivities, all of its abilities. The soul comes down into the body. The soul of every single person, and let's take the Jewish people, the soul of every Jew, the soul before it comes into the body is pure. Then it comes out just like Jacob. It comes out from Beersheba. Beersheba is talking about the well from which the 7 emotions come. That's Bina. That's the source of the 7 emotions. You read it, then it comes down, the soul comes down into Malchut, into the lowest level. That's like Harona. Ad, you read until the descent to all the lowest worlds, Bria, Yetzirah, Nasiya, Atabarata, Atayatzarta, Adanafak, to be the soul, until it finally comes into this physical world. And that physical world is like Haron Ashalom. It is like hell. This world, terrible place. Sins come easy. Commandments are very difficult. Shehu Male Klipas V'Sitracha. The world is filled with klipas, with shells, it says, concealments and evil and malimim, which conceal ungodliness. Okay, here the Rebbe is speaking especially to the Jewish people, to the Jews. But really, this is basically true about everybody. The way the soul was basking in the oneness of God, and it comes down to this terrible world. But the Jews are, so to speak, more talented, if you want to call it, in the spiritual worlds, and they come down into this physical world, and they're like everybody else. They're just as blind and as deaf to God as everyone. The Al Kedusha saw the Ruchnius and the Shema and the and all holiness and the spiritual of the soul. The Adyatera is even more. It has the ability, and it forgets about spirituality and godliness and everything. It can be lahazik, the Yehudi. The world can actually damage Jews, just like exactly what Jacob was afraid of. So if so, maybe it's better we shouldn't be in the world. But the intention of this big descent is exactly the opposite, that a Jew, like Jacob, Yitkaber, should defy and overpower all of these concealments and all of this confusion of the physical and material world, and even more, Yivaneh Beit Yisrael, to transform it. He builds a house for the Jewish people, Ad Lofen Mitata Shlema, that it says that his bed was complete. So that's the whole story of creation. That's the whole story of the Jewish people, to be in this physical world, but to fix up the world. That's not so easy. To be in the physical world is okay, but to fix up the world is not so easy. Very easy to make And they say to cut corners. And this is by means of this. When a soul is in a body, he reveals by means of doing the Torah and the commandments, the light of the soul in this physical world. By means of this, he transforms the darkness and the physicality of this world, and he makes the mundaneness of the world, that it should be surrendered and harmonious and secondary and a vessel for godliness. Till this physical body unites with the soul. Is that possible to do? That's the whole essence of what music is. What's music? You take a physical instrument that has no particular beauty to it and no particular harmony in it or whatever. And exactly, I think I've told you a lot of jokes about that, right? Guy invites his friend to his house and says, "This is my trumpet." He said, "Where'd you get that trumpet?" This is from my next door neighbor. I stole it from his house, took it from his house. Why'd you steal a trumpet? You don't know how to play the trumpet. He says, "Yeah, my next door neighbor also doesn't know how to play the trumpet. That's why I stole it." A trumpet, a piano, whatever it is, if you don't know how to play it, it's terrible, right? It's much better just to leave it alone, quiet, silence. The same thing with this world. If you don't know how to play the world, then it's terrible. It's awful. The world just confuses you totally. But if you do know how to use the world properly, then it's wonderful, right? A nice trumpet solo, piano, whatever. That's what it means, that your soul unites with the body to use this world as an instrument to reveal godliness in, which is much more harmonious and beautiful than the most beautiful violin or the most beautiful orchestra or whatever. Kafi Shazam Romaz, like it's hinted at in the beginning of the going out of Jacob. That Jacob went out from Beersheba and he went to Haran. By means of Harona, going down of the soul below, he became a mover. He became dynamic. Its soul became alive. Like it says, when the soul is in heaven, it's just standing in one place. It's standing in one place. Good. It's in its comfort zone, ultimate comfort zone, but it's not doing anything. It's not. It's not being unique. It's like the same thing as the angels. The Akiyam is even more. Nehemar, it says that Jacob, he went to Harona. It doesn't say that he went to Haran. Harona means in the direction. Even when he went there, he kept going down. Kivan Shavoda, since the service of Jacob is to fix up all of this going, moving, and making the whole world into moving, bringing life to the whole world. Even Charon Avshalolam, that the whole world should be constantly striving for more meaning and for more for more meaning and for more godliness. Therefore, Lo Ne'amar, it doesn't say Charon, that he went to Charon, but he went. Then it would be implied that Yaakov just went to this place called Haran. But him and Haran would be two different things. But it says he went Vayelech Harana. That his very walking, his very moving was always in that direction, more and more to, they say, to elevate the physical world. Shemaraz, that he's going spiritual, was drawn to the lowest of levels, Haran Atzmo. And we can also add on, Dvar said that this is also hinted at the addition of the letter Hey in Charona. Charona means in the direction of Charon, continuing going lower and lower. And like the rabbis say, Nivra ha'olam hazeh b'hei, this world was created with, it says the spiritual worlds were created with the Yud, and this world is created with the letter Hey. Kolomar al yedei Charona, by him going from Jacob, leaving the holy place, which is Israel, Beersheba, and he went to Haran, that he revealed in the Haran the letter Hey of the name of God. The name of God has two Heys in it. Yud and then Hey, and then Vav, and another time another Hey. So the second Hey, that's the source of the world. That's God's speech. That's pretty good. You reveal that in the world. But the upper Hey is the reason for it. That's what's called God's Bina's understanding. And you read the reason for the world. Shabon Nivra, that this physical world was created with the letter Hey. Hakoach v'achayot, the godliness which enlivens the whole creation. Suddenly the whole world becomes one unit, a creation of God. Ubelashana Yadua, like it's known, at koach hapol v'nifal, you feel the power of the Creator in the creation. Shemibchinet shemavchinin, that you can sense umakirim and recognize benifal, in the creation, the physical world, that there is a Creator. Chayot Eloki, godly power, until shenifal, that the creation just becomes an expression of the Creator. Asher mitpateh b'tziur hanifal, that the Creator is expressed in every detail of the creation. You can see the intention, the godly intention, the miracle of everything. It says once Yaakov did that, it says Vayivka b'makom v'yelen sham ki bo hashemesh. It says that Yaakov, he reached this place. We say this is the place of the Holy Temple. And that was, he reached this place. He went to Haran, and he got to this place, and he laid down there because the sun sank. Bo hashemesh. But he kach me'avnei makom, and he took from the stones of that place, and he put them under his head. And he laid down in that place. What is this talking about? We said before that this is all what is happening to Jacob is also happening to the soul. The soul comes out from Beersheba, that's heaven, and it comes to Haran, which is this world. It says in the middle, though, it meets this place, and it lays down and takes the stones. What's this mean? When the soul of a Jew comes down below and is clothed in a body, a physical body in this physical world. Olam milashon helen, concealment. Then, as soon as the soul comes out from heaven to be put in the world, then immediately the sun sets. What does it mean? Helen alagila conceals the revelation of the sun, S-U-N, the sun, S-U-N, and the muggin and the sheath of God. In other words, godliness becomes concealed. And by means of this, Vayishkav makomahu, he lays down. Inyan Shchiva, it indicates that your head and your feet are on the same level. Al Yedei Helen, because of the concealment of the world, reality suddenly changes. Behester Shalom, the world, Agashmi Achomri Mamash, who atachton she'in tachton matamimenu, by means of the soul coming into this low, terrible physical world, and that becomes now reality. Being Hester Oro, in the concealment of God's light, and Choshech Kavlam of Chob, double and redoubled darkness. The head and the feet become the same level. Ubafrat, the darkness of the exile, when we don't see any miracles, and especially what's called the ikvus of the Moshiach, the heels of the Moshiach, which right now were found in a deep, deep sleep. Shekochos Agiluim, all the revealed powers are concealed, so the head and the feet are equal. And even more, Olam Hazeh, this whole world is filled with klippas and sitrach. We're saying that Yaakov leaving Beersheba and coming into Haran is like the soul leaving the heavenly source where it is and coming down into this world. Suddenly the world is filled with all sorts of weird urges and they say frustrations, klippas and sitracha, what's called shells and separation, shem neged Hashem, that's totally against God. Therefore, you have to take stones and put them around your head. And Rashi says that what did he take the stones for? He took the stones to protect him from wild animals. Why did he put stones around his head? To protect him from wild animals. What about the rest of his body? We'll talk about that later. Nevertheless, that's what Jacob did. It seems that maybe here the analogy sort of breaks down, because wild animals will not stop tearing up your body just because you put stones around your head. Even more, wild animals won't be stopped by stones around your head. They'll just jump over the stones. What's the big problem, right? What's the problem? You get an ape or something like that, just goes through the stones. He says, no, Jacob put the stones around his head, and that protected him from the animals. Even more, the stones became one stone, so it didn't protect him anymore. We'll see we'll see what it means. What it means to us. So Jacob is basically in the same situation as each one of us is right now. The soul came out from Beersheba, a place of pure holiness and godliness, and it came down to this terrible world where suddenly, how do you say, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do. We have to adjust the situation, right? Says the Rebbe. Not 100%. Yes, adjust to the situation, yes. But what's the inside? Your inside should not adjust. Your inside is pure godliness. And now you just, in heaven, you went through basic training. Now you're in the battlefront. You're on the front lines. What do you have to do? Side with the enemy? These guys got guns, right? I didn't know they were going to shoot back at me, right? When I was in basic training, nobody shot back at me. I'm going to surrender. That's the easiest thing to do. No, says the Rebbe, no, that's not what Yaakov did. Yaakov came out from Beersheba, came into the world. Instead of surrendering to the world, as he used the world properly. But first of all, he protected himself. He put these stones around his head. What does this mean? We'll talk about it in a second. Only by means of this descent into the world, like Jacob, only by descending, leaving Israel and coming into this world. Nif'al, he brought about he brought about a spiritual, how do you say, increase in power, and he strengthened his soul, and also he brought godliness to his physical body. Shagamba matzav yarud, that even when he is in this physical world, the rosho b'shva, and his head is now equal with his body. So his body is as dominant and as, how do you say, as, oh, excuse me, his body is as, what's the word for it? Dominant, okay, as his head is. But usually most people go according to what their head. But when you're put in the world, all of a sudden your body becomes dominant. It also has a say. Moshiach at Kedusha, now Yaakov has a choice. Either he can let his body affect his head, or he can let his head affect his body. It says Yaakov made his head, he drew down godliness, the soul, which is in his head, into his body. And even more, the Yishkav Maliaso, that he laid down. What does it mean? That his physical body united with the soul. Not that he made his head physical, he made his body spiritual. Al Yadezeh is brought about by Shlemos Analis Yoter, incomparable highness of that it can be achieved only by means of being in this world and using the world only to serve the Creator. A tremendous elevation is accomplished. That's what Yaakov did, and that's what it's telling us to do as well.